I'm Joseph.
And I'm Nick.
This is Fish Jelly.
Uh-huh.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Okay. So Barack Obama released his favorite movies of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I'd go through them since I'm sure you've seen them all.
Oh,
I don't know that these are in any particular order. So here we go. A Complete Unknown.
yeah.
That's the Bob Dylan biopic with Timothée.
Timote. Yep. Okay.
Sugarcane.
Oh, see, that's something I haven't seen. A documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Didi.
DDS. I've seen that.
Honora.
Mm-hmm.
Dune Part 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The Seed of the Sacred Fig.
Mm-hmm.
The Promised Land.
The Promised Land. Why is my mind blinking?
Is that a
That might
documentary?
be a documentary. Oh, no. God, that? Okay, I saw that in 2023 with Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh,
That's Nikolai Arcel film. I was not a fan of that, but I guess that came out this year.
The Piano Lesson.
Okay.
Conclave.
Uh-huh.
All We Imagine as Light.
Okay, he's got some good, Barack's got some good taste.
I agree.
Yeah. But it's funny that, because John Waters loved Joker too. And I, as much as I feel like my tastes often align with his, definitely not on that front.
Well, I'm often surprised when I see some of y'all's Letterboxd scores, but but that's the fun part.
Again, and we should that it shouldn't be intimidating. Like, it should be what you feel. It should be your personal opinion, because there are always people trying to browbeat us, for instance. In the comments section, like,
good luck.
What did some asshole try to shame us for? I think it was on the Maria review, which Maria is not a good film in my opinion. I did not like it, and somebody's trying to say, like, because I should have known you have no taste because you like Babylon. I don't like Damien Chazelle. I did really like Babylon. I think in the years to come, we're going to find that that's a highly underrated film. But it's like, and what's the correlation there? The correlation is my opinion.
Yeah. Well, thank you to our former president, Barack Obama, for sharing. Moving on. So apparently, well, it's not apparently, it happened. Blake Lively sues Justin Baldoni for sexual harassment.
Well, I feel like that's not surprising. I feel like we were waiting for that shoe to drop, but then she must have waited for...
Were we?
I thought so. All the fear over when that movie came out.
I guess so I had totally forgotten about this movie and any furor, and then we received many messages about this, and even you sent me like a link to this situation. So I guess I had totally...
Well, I feel like it's coming now, because rather than when the film was being released, so it wouldn't damage whatever the release. I'm assuming that's why she waited. I don't know. I don't know why she didn't do this then.
Well, just trying to read a little bit about it. The lawsuit lists the demands that were addressed. So apparently Blake Lively and other members of the cast went to the studio making demands of him, Justin Baldoni, against his conduct, which included no more showing nude photos or images of women to Blake, no more mention of Baldoni's alleged previous pornography addiction, no more discussions about sexual conquests in front of Blake and others, no further mentions of cast and crew's genitalia, no more inquiries about Blake's weight, and no further mention of Blake's dead father.
There was a team making the demands?
There's also
not just Blake.
I guess.
Okay.
Also, there's also a demand that there be no more adding of sex scenes, oral sex, or on-camera climaxing by Blake Lively outside the scope of the script Blake Lively approved when signing on to the project. The suit claims the demands were embraced and approved by the studio, but there was a huge conflict over how it would be marketed. Blake wanted a more upbeat pitch about her character's resilience as per the marketing plan, where Baldoni wanted the focus to be on domestic violence and chose to go off script from the plan.
Okay.
And then claims it Baldoni engaged in a social manipulation campaign to destroy Blake Lively's reputation. This includes texts from Baldoni's publicist to the studio that says that Baldoni wants to feel like Ms. Lively can be buried. We can't write, we will destroy her. I don't know how that sentence makes sense. We
What?
can't write, we will destroy her. Maybe the word write should have been wait. Anyway,
Oh, maybe. Okay.
her suit is saying that it's caused severe emotional distress. Of course, Baldoni's lawyer replied by saying that this lawsuit is intended to fix Blake Lively's negative reputation, saying that the claims are false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious with an intent to publicly hurt. Yeah. Apparently, Blake Lively was a nightmare on set, threatening to not show up or promote the film. Then I guess Baldoni responded to some of the claims, saying that he did ask his trainer how much Blake Lively weighed, but it was because he had a bad back and was trying to protect it. I mean, I think we should take this kind of stuff seriously.
Yes, of course.
To get sidetracked for a second, Lizzo, Keke Palmer has a podcast now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's had several, but she has a new one. That's a video podcast that I've been watching. And she recently interviewed Lizzo, who hasn't done an interview since the scandal with the lawsuit
right
that she endured. And I thought that was an interesting interview. It kind of made me feel the way Monique on Club Shay Shay felt, which is like you just spent like an hour and a half saying you're not difficult while being kind of difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Keke was trying to throw her a lot of bones. Like, but can you see how maybe this might be interpreted this way? And I think Lizzo seems like, she doesn't seem like a malicious person, but I think she does seem like maybe she could be a little prickly and demanding, and maybe people didn't like that, and so they sort of blew something up.
Yeah, see, that's people like women to act a certain way, and if you don't do that, then I believe that there's a lot of sabotage that goes on, and it's not hard to stain someone's reputation, really.
But Lizzo mentioned that the first round of lawsuits against her had been dropped. So a judge found that there was no evidence to support. So, good for her. But the main reason I brought her up is that Keke Palmer on a number of, more than twice during the interview sort of brought up this idea of like, I'm also like a boss, like I have employees, and because we're in entertainment and because these people work closer to us, the line can be kind of blurry as to like, well, what's appropriate. And, so I err on the side of being more professional at the cost of maybe people thinking that I'm not their friend
but you're not. So that's okay.
And Lizzo seemed to not fully appreciate that. But the not like, I mean, she was saying that I still don't want to seem like, I want to be friendly. I want my employees to, I think she has a lot to learn. But the reason I'm bringing this up is the whole point about entertainment. And I think people working in certain arenas, and it's not just actors, musicians, but also like even working in Vegas, like being a cocktail server where you're walking around in this environment and you're scantily clad and your breasts are half out. I think that makes people think that they can talk to you in a certain way. When I worked in the casinos, which of course was 20 plus years ago, the way some of the male employees and female employees would talk about the female cocktail servers and their bodies and what they wanted to do with them. And they just sort of, it seemed like they felt free to do so because it's like, well, they're dressed like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And that is not true.
If I can't talk about her breasts, then why are they out? And it's like, okay, well, we probably need more HR training and sexual harassment training. But, so that's what this makes me feel like is these are professional settings, but also when you're a creative and, in your corporate job, you're not having meetings talking about sex scenes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're if you're shooting a movie and working through a script that has inappropriate conduct built into it, you have to talk about it. So I'm sure it feels tricky. And then when people,
It
Blake Lively's married to an
it's tricky.
A-list
Yeah,
male who is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So
of course it's tricky, but we are more than enough. We're very sophisticated creatures as humans, and there is a way to do that.
yeah, I agree that there is a way to do that. And the reason I brought up her husband is, this is a woman who you would think has a lot of power, but it seems like she still felt powerless to some degree. And we should take that seriously too. And
Yes, well, and see that's where I think timing is important because powerless to a degree where this whole thing could have been scuttled, and I believe that she really wanted this film to be a success.
yeah, and we reviewed it. I didn't hate it. I had fun talking about it, probably because there were parts of it that were ridiculous. I think the worst part of the film is Justin Baldoni playing,
I mean, he as a screen presence made me uncomfortable.
which is effective for the role. But I think knowing how it veers from the book and
Well,
his performance, it just
the list of demands being made again. We all form our own opinions based on the information we receive, but it's like I could. I've been around many people that think that it's appropriate to talk about such their sexual conquests as that's a way to me that's almost like a grooming technique to we can introduce this salacious thing safely in the sidelines, but it creeps in another weird way because I'm used to people trying all kinds of whatever, but the fact that the studio was receptive of these demands, that means like he's been out here. They acknowledge that he's been out here talking about cast members' genitals. Why was that ever happening? Why?
well, yeah, it's of course we don't know the details,
Right,
but
but
it's unfortunate, and I'm sure it's awkward for Blake Lively to have to go through this. And I'm sure that if these allegations are exaggerated or not true, this could ruin Justin Baldoni's career, which also sucks. But
yeah.
but since so many people brought it to my attention, there you go. Moving on. So KFC is starting this new concept. This is the restaurant section, by the way. KFC is starting this new concept called Saucy. So they're going to open up new restaurants called Saucy by KFC that have more of like a trendy look to them, but they're going to focus on chicken tenders and a slew of new sauces.
Well,
And I thought you might think that's cute because you love sauces.
I do like sauces. I don't really like KFC though. But yeah, okay, I might have to try sauce. But that reminds me of, remember when Pizza Hut tried to rebrand as The Hut?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not going to work.
Oh.
But good for try. We happen to live by very elaborate KFC.
There's a KFC in walking distance to our home that is shaped like a bucket of chicken. It's like 4 stories tall.
It's very large.
We've never been inside. Well, at least I haven't.
No, I haven't.
I think once I went through the drive-through, maybe once, and I don't know if maybe it was a weekend or something where I was here by myself and I just wanted like chicken tenders. I don't know, but yeah, the quality of that chicken is also, I can't get it out of my head, all those memes of like the bloated chickens and maybe it's not true. I don't know what I saw, but I have a bad taste in my mouth, pun intended, for KFC.
I haven't had that in years and years. I think we went as a kind of a joke once, since we've been in LA, but this was probably a damn near decade ago now.
Well, I did go maybe like 6 months ago with my mom because she likes their coleslaw. And I will say the mashed potatoes and gravy, I mean, it's as hot as hell, but why is their mashed potato and gravy like molten lava? But if you give it like 2 hours and when it cools down.
And it's not because I like to put ice cubes and things to cool them down. You can't put ice cubes in mashed potatoes.
No, but yeah, the sides slap, as the kids said a couple years ago. But the chicken, I don't know.
After we watched a hybrid documentary this week about the end of the world we're hurtling towards, and it's like I envision it's like when New York suddenly made trans fat illegal, right? What was it they wouldn't allow? I can't remember. This is 20 years ago now too, where like McDonald's, for instance, or other fast food chains couldn't uh, cook their food in a certain grease. I'm forgetting the details, but I envision a time when fast food's going to be made illegal because it's poisonous.
Oh, was it that
It's
hydrogenated
yeah,
or
it's
something like that? Well, we've been doing Whole30 and it's been what, 3 weeks?
mhm.
And and we're not even like being super, super strict about it.
Well, we're drinking wine, yeah.
Drinking wine.
Mhm.
You are putting cream in my coffee, but I only drink coffee in the morning.
Mhm.
And I did eat some peanut butter.
Listen to that. You are putting cream in my coffee because that's how you like it.
But who put it in there?
Well, because you've been making it for yourself, and I'm like, well, we got to get rid of that cream. It's gonna go bad. I don't like throwing food away.
This sounds like a circle of blame, but
Uh,
but yeah, nutrition is just like, it's so crazy how not eating certain, like, just improving because effectively we're eating food that is less inflammatory, less processed,
Mhm.
just as a function of that. Because we're not eating less, like I'm still eating a lot. I feel better. I've
Mhm.
lost weight. I've probably lost like 10 pounds, and we're eating quite a bit. I'm probably eating more than I was before. It's just I'm not eating.
Well, it's more like grazing, though. It's not like we're not eating.
But the point of that is related to what you were, I think I interrupted you, but like perhaps having stricter regulations on like fast food. I mean, some of the stuff that you can buy is crazy.
It's not good for you.
And I'll eat it. I will. I'll go to Taco Bell and Jack in the Box and McDonald's and
Well, it's not sustenance, and if we had to revert to a time where you had to prepare more of your own food, we trust you would eat less. If you harvested your own vegetables, if you killed your own meat, like the you you kind of end up respecting, your own time in the process.
but I'm not trying to act like Jamie Oliver and tell people how to eat, because I'm sure I'm going out of town next week and I'm not going to have access to the foods I've been eating. So
Sure, yes.
I'm going to have to eat what's good and available. And so I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to advocate a lifestyle. I just think that some of the shit that's out there, we could do better.
We could do it well, and it goes to the supply chain that like we shouldn't expect to have whatever we want whenever we want it. Like that's that like we're not going to survive with that mentality.
Hmm. Okay, there is something in the sorry to this man section, kind of.
Uh-oh.
So we reviewed Tyler Perry's new movie, The 6888,
Uh-huh.
and I was saying that the main, I guess there are two main characters. There's
Mhm.
Kerry Washington playing a general, not a general, I'm
A
sorry,
major.
a major. And then there's another woman playing a cadet, Lena.
Ebony Obsidian. Mhm.
And that name is so cool to me.
Yeah, very nice.
But Ebony Obsidian's character lives with her grandmother and another lady. And in the review, I was saying, I don't know who this other lady is, if it's her.
Yeah, I concurred. I was
Because
unclear.
it's like, it is her grandmother, but she looks the same age as who's supposed to be her mother. And it turns out it's her aunt, because she calls her Aunt Susan.
Oh, okay.
So I missed that.
Yeah.
We did get a lot of comments, people not agreeing that it's not great, which is fine. I'm glad people enjoyed it. We got several comments from people saying that like my auntie is one of those women, or
Yeah, I
my
saw that.
and I can appreciate people, like visibility is important, so I can see how someone appreciating that this story was told and or appreciating I can't say that word, appreciating it for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll double down on the fact that I think that these women's stories deserve better. I just don't think this is, the attention to detail is so poor. Tyler Perry is doing this press run bragging about how he wrote the script in 2 weeks. And I just think, like, for him, that sounds good.
We are past first wave Black representation. We
have talented Black creatives who could have taken this subject and made a masterpiece.
It's okay to ask for better for ourselves. It really is.
And that's why I get a little frustrated. We forgot to mention in our review, but there's a point where these women, who, if people don't know, it's about the only Black female battalion in the Army, who were then instructed to deliver an insane amount of undelivered mail that no one else could do, and they ended up doing it. But the attention to detail, there's a point where two of those women are killed while trying to deliver mail because they run over an unexploded bomb. And the general, this crotchety ass white man played by
Dean Norris, who's a terrible performance,
and he refuses to pay. Like, he's saying that the military is not going to pay for these ladies' funerals. So the major, Kerry Washington's character, runs a collection plate, and we see someone put a brand new $20 bill in there, like the kind of $20 bills that just came out.
Yep.
And it's not like you have to pause and magnify the screen 100 times.
No.
It's very visible. That's the kind of attention to detail that Tyler Perry puts into a movie that he's bragging he took 2 weeks to write. Because we all know from social media from like 10 years ago when he was writing all those, he would write those movies in like a day.
Yeah.
He would post about it. I'm in this beautiful cabin in Aspen and I just wrote the script for da-da-da. Like today. So yes, for him, it's better, but we deserve better. And
he's always been, he's clearly always sloppy with detail, but I always remember in A Fall from Grace, you can see the people in a restaurant scene, the extras
eating food with
there's no food on the forks.
There's no food on the utensils. They don't know what to do because the director didn't instruct
because the director doesn't know what to do.
And here's the thing. For all the people who get mad at us, if you had access to Black filmmakers, Black actors who do quality work, and you had the ability to ask them what they think about Tyler Perry and they could give their honest opinion, because we have had the chance to talk to some of those people.
Yeah. I've talked to people that direct, that are major directors
who also think that it's a shame what he does. So of course everyone has to be PC and people don't want to tear other people down in public, and that's great. But the problem is, like, everyone's turning a blind eye. Even I don't want to go on and on about it.
Well, because he makes money. Okay, that's
what I do want to highlight is that I think the story of this battalion is compelling. There is a documentary about it. I think it's on PBS. I'd recommend people look that up. Right. And hopefully in the future, the other thing is, people, I deleted a lot of comments, but people who are being kind of nasty, they always start off with like, you guys are assholes. This movie was great. Yeah. The script was weird. Yeah. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. But I loved it. And it's like, okay. Again,
and guess what? That's your opinion. And I have mine.
Yeah. And I've said it before, so I'm not going to keep saying it. But
no, I think it bears repeating because people just don't see.
It's okay to like something. It's okay, but
it's okay to dislike something
because you think. I mean, I just don't know how people. I was so frustrated by this that I was trying to look up data on like how many times people go to the theaters in a year, how many movies people stream. I think the average for most Americans is they go to the theater 3 times a year, and that currently, I think on average people stream about 100 movies a year. And I think, the quality of what most people are watching now is made for like, I mean, it's like fast fashion. It's just how fast can we get these projects up with like notable people and bullshit scripts that have poor production because we have all these platforms everyone's paying $10 a month for.
It's like fast food.
So everyone's used to like kind of crap. And so then you want to argue about how, Trigger Warning is a great movie. I mean, it's just crazy.
Right.
And I wonder, like, do the people who want to advocate for Tyler Perry, like, have you not, like, I don't know, look at something like The Brutalist or Blitz.
Yes.
Or like, I mean, I could go on and on that there are filmmakers out there who have a fraction of the resources Tyler Perry has, a fraction, and they craft masterpieces.
Yeah.
This person has not only does Tyler Perry have all of the money, this man owns an entire film studio and we still get the quality.
The Brutalist took
like a Tommy Wiseau production.
Took it a decade to get made. this person out here
When you
saying like
think
I wrote
about
the
the
script in
kind of
2 weeks.
films that black filmmakers are making in the 90s against all odds with
Right.
no money, and they were funny and relatable, I think people are hungry for that. And so they give Tyler Perry a pass. Also, yeah, when I watch a Tyler Perry movie, I'm sitting there howling because I know that I'm going to be able to talk about it and it's going to make me some money and that people are going to engage with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like we're going to get a bunch of comments of people saying like that's so funny, we agreed it was terrible. So there is value in it, but to defend it as being like Oscar worthy, I mean, it's like
No.
did you only watch 3 movies this year? And and they were like
Well, if
mea
you
culpa, Divorce in the
if you
Black,
limit
and
the scope in the 3 movies you watch where the Tyler Perry releases, yeah,
yeah, this is a
this
masterpiece.
well, no, it stands out like a bright shiny penny, but it's still not. It's not a well made film, and the material and the women represented in it deserve better. They do. There's no way around that.
Moving on to films released we didn't cover, The Count of Monte Cristo.
I did watch this.
Oh,
Um,
was it delicious?
Actually, well, it's 3 hours, and I
Oh,
fit that in one someday this week, starring Pierre Nani, and of course, based on the classic text. The directors Alexandre de la Petelier and Mathieu Delaporte, they have right before this they redid the Three Musketeers and released that in 2 parts, and I did not see that their rehash of that. Although I would love to because I am a big fan of Ava Green and she is in both of those. Anyway, this is the Count of Monte Cristo, so about the poor Edmond Dantes. I mean, have you ever seen a version of any Monte Cristo?
is one of them with
I think
Johnny Depp,
mm,
or am I thinking of Don Juan DeMarco?
you're Don Juan DeMarco.
The Count
No,
of
no,
Monte.
darling.
Wait, you know what?
I know there's one with Orlando Bloom.
Oh, I think
Or
that
is it him or Jim? It's Jim Caviezel, sorry, and Guy Pearce from 2002. I haven't watched that since it came out, but this is obviously much better than that. Uh, as I said, Pierre Nani about Edmond Dantes, a man who gets wrongly imprisoned for 14 years and escapes with the help of this other man who happens to have access to a fortune, and he goes out and wreaks vengeance against those who have wronged him, and tries to reconnect with the lady love that he left behind, who married his nemesis and had a child with them. Anaïs de Moustier is the nemesis. I like her. Anna Maria Bartolome, who you know from the film Happening, the abortion drama that won Venice a couple years ago. And I really like Laurent Lafitte. I think he still strikes he's a very handsome man. He's makes a good villain. You probably remember him as the rapist in Elle. I would say this is worth your 3 hours. I think it's kind of a lush production. I think it looks excellent. And I was avoiding, I didn't even bring up asking you to review it because I feel like I'm so accustomed to this feels like a film that gets remade periodically, and I don't know how much I want to revisit it. But I actually liked it so much, I might rewatch The Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio this week because I haven't seen that in years.
Projects of interest consumed.
So apparently, David Cronenberg has mentioned that he is not retiring, which is great I think, and he wants to adapt a book he wrote. And I own this book. I haven't read it, called Consumed. So that might be exciting.
Is there an Evel Knievel biopic coming?
Yeah, Damien Chazelle, who I've already kind of talked shit about in the back doorway in this recording, but not a filmmaker I love, even though I do like Babylon. I do. And maybe, anyway. Apparently Leonardo DiCaprio is going to star as Evel Knievel.
Oh.
I don't, I remember my dad watching some kind of program about him and his son who followed in his footsteps, but I really don't know that much about Evel Knievel.
I remember him as a kid, and then I also remember a show called That's Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that he would be featured on there, or or maybe I'm collapsing That's Incredible with Evil Knievel, because that was a reality show where they would show people doing wild things. But
not Wild and Out.
Now I want to know, but now I want to try to find like where can I find episodes of That's Incredible? Anyway, lastly, Jamie Lee Curtis as Jessica Fletcher.
Yeah, apparently they're trying to do a film reboot of Jessica Fletcher, who, as you know, is really just Agatha Christie's Miss Marple. Hello. Anyway, that'd be kind of fun. I don't know.
Whenever I think of that, I think of RuPaul, because RuPaul says Murder, She Wrote is his favorite show, but he calls it Murder, She Sat Down and Wrote. Or Murder, She Sat Down and She Wrote, or something like that.
We live not far from a restaurant because there's no seating inside, called Burger, She Wrote, that I've always wanted. I think that's so cute, and I want to try a burger there. Anyway, I like Jamie Lee Curtis.
On Patreon this past week, we reviewed Heaven's Gate, Lars and the Real Girl, and Jackie Brown. Unfortunately, there is an entry in the obituary section.
Yes.
Marisa Paredes has died.
Is that how you pronounce her last name?
Paredes?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Paredes?
No, not like Vanessa Paradis.
Oh, I thought this was her sister.
No.
Or wait,
French. This lady's Spanish.
Oh. Wait, didn't we just watch something where it's like Lily
Allison?
What's
Allison
the name
Paradis.
of the lady? What Johnny Depp's daughter?
Lily Rose Depp.
And who's her auntie?
Allison Paradis.
And what do we watch her in?
Inside.
No relation.
Allison Paradis is Vanessa Paradis' sister.
Marisa Paredes
is not a relation. She's Spanish.
Marisa Paredes is a Spanish actress with a long, illustrious career. She acted in more than 75 films, 80 TV shows, and 15 plays. She was 78 years old.
Yes.
What do you know her from?
You know her too.
From what?
Almodovar often casts her. And I know we have a review for All About My Mother from the Criterion release, and that's my favorite Almodovar film. Yes, excellent actress. The moment I found out she died, I texted you and you're like, who dat? But
no, I just left you on red. I didn't say who dat.
When I asked you about it, you said that, because I came up and said, like, does that not make you sad? She's worked with many high profile directors, because she's also worked with Guillermo del Toro in The Devil's Backbone, which I should rewatch this week. She's in Life is Beautiful. She's worked with Arturo Ripstein, who's, dare I say, he might be my favorite Mexican director. He's in Deep Crimson. We had a movie night many years ago for The Flower of My Secret, which is kind of a B-side Almodovar. If you've never seen it, I highly, highly, highly recommend In a Glass Cage by Augusti Villarronga, who's kind of a weirdo filmmaker, to say the least. But that movie, In a Glass Cage, is about Nazi child-killing pedophile who's confined inside an iron lung in an old mansion after he tries to kill himself. And then there's a young man and Marissa looking after him. It is insane. Yes, I am a fan of hers.
Well, goodbye to Marissa. The secret film this week was your choice, and you chose the 1971 French language Canadian drama film Mon Oncle Antoine.
Yeah, Mon Oncle Antoine.
I know my French-speaking friends are going to drag me. My Uncle Antoine, which I thought sounded like it could be a gay movie. My Uncle Antoine.
Yeah.
What is it about? Set in cold rural Quebec at Christmas time, we follow the coming of age of a young boy and the life of his family, which owns the town's general store and undertaking business. Why did you choose this movie?
Well, because I was told that I had to pick Christmas-themed things this month, and you
love to follow the rules.
I do.
And meet expectations.
And I did. And I've never seen this. It's a film that I've bypassed for years watching, because based on the title and the description, I'm like, oh, I already know what that's going to be like. And I would get it sometimes confused in my head with Mon Oncle by Jacques Tati, or the Alain Resnais film, Mon Oncle d'Americain, My Uncle the American, which is a film I really like. But yeah, so this has just been floating around in the flotsam and jetsam, and finally, I'm like, it's the time. It's time to watch it.
This movie is crazy as hell because I read the general premise and thought, oh gosh, this is going to be so dry. And then when the film opens, it feels dry because we're in this snowy, cold, rural town in Quebec. But yeah, it took me somewhere I did not expect to go.
Same, yeah.
So the story, it's called My Uncle Antoine. So let's start with Antoine. Antoine is played by Jean Duquette.
I
Is that... You're lucky I didn't say Jean Giuseppe, but I was trying.
I would assume that Duceppe, but again, I mispronounce
Jean Duceppe.
French and French Canadian names all the time.
So Antoine is married to a lady named Cecile, played by Olivette Thibault.
Mm-hmm.
And like the premise says, they run the local general store and like mortuary. So it's Christmas Eve, and everyone's just bebopping around, getting ready for Christmas. This couple, they have adopted her nephew,
mm-hmm.
and his name is Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
So initially we kind of focus more on Benoit and like his experience. There's this little girl who works at the shop who he likes.
I think Carmen.
He has friends. So for the day, we see him just having a gay old time running around with his friends. He gets to kiss that girl he likes, and he grabs her breast at one point.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of traumatic for her, really.
It is. Then...
she's not having a very good day.
No, she's not, but he is. Then there is a local woman who rarely comes to the store, but she's this glamorous, sexy lady.
The notary's wife.
Mysterious woman, and she comes in to try on some lingerie she bought or ordered.
Mm-hmm.
So Benoit, who is like
probably
a corset.
Mm-hmm.
And Benoit's probably like 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
So his hormones are raging. He and his other little buddy, they sneak upstairs to watch this woman change into the corset. So they get to see more like breasts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're having a really great day.
It's a very breasty Christmas Eve. Yes.
Who's not having a great day is there's this local townswoman who has a son, this 15-year-old guy.
Well, she's not quite local.
No. She's a distance away.
Yeah, in St. Pierre, they say, yeah.
But she calls in saying, oh my gosh, my son died and my husband is not here. He's like away camping. Like he left the family on Christmas Eve. So she's asking if someone from the mortuary can come get her son. And it's important to know that there is a clerk working at the general store / mortuary named Fernand, and he's played by the director of this film,
mm-hmm.
Claude Jutra.
Yes.
And so he's like, okay, well, let me see what we can do. He yells at Cecile, who basically runs the joint, because her husband, Antoine, just kind of sits around. He's like a lazy curmudgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And she tells Antoine, like, well, you need to go pick up this body. Benoit, the kid, overhears it and says, can I go? Cecile says yes. Antoine says, you can come along, but don't get too excited. So they're off.
Mm-hmm.
So the first half of the film is kind of like this lovely day in the small rural town. It's a little boring, but cute. But once Antoine and Benoit get on this horse and carriage with this like casket box to deliver the dead body with,
mm-hmm.
things switch up real quick because they're riding through the snow. It's freezing cold. And we see that Antoine pulls out a bottle of liquor and starts drinking.
And we've seen him drinking throughout the day.
We've seen him drinking throughout the day, but it's made to seem kind of cute.
Yeah. Well, and it's Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas Eve, so it doesn't seem off kilter. But then now that he's riding to go get this dead body and he's drinking, it is alarming. They get to the house and it's clear that Antoine is drunk.
Yeah.
And of course, the mother who called about her dead son is distraught, but she's made them dinner.
There's 4 other kids in the house.
There are 4 other kids in the house, and Antoine is sitting at that dining room table just tearing it up like an animal.
Yep.
And drinking more. And it's disturbing to the point where even Benoit is looking at his uncle like, damn. Mm-hmm. Like he's disgusted. And the mother is also upset. So she tries to diffuse the situation by saying, well, let me make you some tea. And she starts crying.
Mm-hmm.
And it upsets Antoine. Like, he's annoyed. So he gets up and he's like, well, Benoit, go grab the box and put it by the door. So they put this boy's body in the box, and the box is too small.
It's too small.
Because we hear them say earlier, like, should we get the large box or the small box? And they're like, well, it's a kid, get the small box. So they have to cram this boy into this box, and the mother sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she's distraught. And then they're off. They put the box back on the horse and carriage.
And now it's nighttime.
Now it's nighttime, riding through the snow. It's
Christmas
cold.
Eve.
It's dark. It's Christmas Eve. And Antoine passes out from being drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So Benoit has to, manage the horse. And he, is a kid who doesn't know what he's doing. So he's trying to get the horse to go faster, which causes the box to fall off the carriage. So Benoit stops, tries to wake up his uncle. He can't. When he finally does, the uncle wakes up swinging,
Mm-hmm.
hits Benoit, knocks him down, mad. And then starts ranting about how he hates his life.
Couldn't have kids of his own, has to take care of other people's children, like his nephew.
He wishes he would have moved to the United States to start a hotel, which was his dream. And instead he's here. So he's just laid it all out and can't help put the box back on the carriage.
Yep.
So Benoit doesn't know what to do. So he just takes off with his uncle, passed out.
He has to put his uncle on the...
He has to drag his uncle onto the carriage, and then he gets back home. Okay. When Benoit and his uncle get back home, Benoit comes into the house and interrupts his aunt having a sexual interaction with the clerk.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, that upsets Benoit. And the aunt is like, oh my gosh, what are you doing home? Like, blah, 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 which we need to talk about. But when the aunt realizes that they left that body somewhere in between here and there, she freaks out. Like, if people find out, we are done.
Mm-hmm.
So she's screaming to the clerk, you need to go find that body. Well, how the hell am I going to find it? Well, ask Benoit. Well, he's asleep. Well, wake his ass up. And then we cut to Benoit and the clerk are on the horse and carriage.
Well, first we see Benoit's...
he has a dream.
He has a dream.
Which we can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But they're riding during the day. So now it's Christmas Day,
mm-hmm.
and they can't find it. They're just riding through the snow and can't
mm-hmm.
find this box. And Benoit's saying, I don't know where we dropped it. So they have the idea to go back to the house of the deceased. And child, the final scene of this movie is Benoit looks through the window of this house, and they have that body back in the house with the box, and the entire family, including the father who is now returned, they're all standing over the box crying, and the film ends. I was gagged.
It's depressing, but it still doesn't seem bleak. It's just stark is the word I kept thinking of watching this.
My only hesitation with the word stark is that it doesn't feel. What's the movie with Pennywise's dad?
Stellan.
Where he is like, I think he works like on an oil rig.
Oh, Breaking the Waves with Emily Watson.
It doesn't feel like that.
No.
To me, that feels stark. This is a little more lively.
Okay, sure.
I don't want to deter people. Like it,
the landscape they're in is stark for sure.
Yes, for sure. But I mean, it's more jovial. Like the first half of the movie kind of feels like a fun, like well-crafted TV movie from the 80s or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then it switches to like, oh, there's my Uncle Antoine has a problem.
Well, it like taking a step back, even just from Antoine, it's really a tale of two men that are having very late midlife crisis-y things happening over the course of this Christmas weekend. Because Madame Poulin, played by Hélène Loisel, her husband, Joe Poulin, we meet, he's the one who opens the film, played by Lionel Villeneuve, and those two were married in real life. And he's just straight up is like, I'm going to go up to the log cabin. He's clearly he works in an asbestos mine, and because his coworkers keep telling him, if you leave again, the mine not take you back. Like, he's clearly unhappy with his life and is trying to escape. And then, of course, Antoine, we learn, is escaping in his own way. And both of those men and their actions kind of have this ripple effect on everybody else in their little family.
I don't want to forget my thought, but so I'm going to say it now, but we need to get back to the director. But I think why I love this movie is because, to me, the reason I hate the holidays is because it feels like my life has to pause to pretend that everything is like magical and perfect and family and gifts. And when the reality is like shit keeps going, like even work, it's like, well, I have work to do. And I'm forced to kind of stop that for a week. But then it just stresses me out knowing that, well, when I'm back, it's, when everything is back in motion, I just have to play catch up. So I think with this movie, thinking about what you just said about that man, and then of course, Antoine, and even the fact that and we'll get more into it, but the fact that Benoit is having this formative experience over this Christmas holiday, it just reminds me that, you can't run from the reality of life. And then I think maybe if people are like me and don't like the holidays because it just triggers a lot of bad memories, and it isn't particularly happy time for me. And, having had sort of traumatic things happen over the holidays, definitely doesn't help for me. But so then I thought, oh, this is like the perfect Christmas movie for me. But before I keep ranting on, can you talk about the director?
Claude Jutra. I have never seen any of his work before, but he was part of this a group of notable Montreal filmmakers from the 60s and 70s. I had meant to watch a previous film he did earlier this week called Take It All, which sounds fascinating, from 1963, but I didn't. Maybe this coming week I'll watch it. But so far after seeing this, I'm interested in following up with some of his other stuff. But he also directed a film with Genevieve Bujold, who was married to Paul Almond, who is a notable Canadian filmmaker from the same period. I have seen some Paul Almond stuff, and he, the titular character Antoine, that's who I've seen him before in a Paul Almond film that was actually kind of very bizarre and fascinating, called Ace of the Heart from 1970. Anyway, but yeah, so in short, I'm not too familiar with him, but I think it's interesting that he directed this and chooses the character of Fernand to play.
Well, speaking of directors taking critical roles, because I know people criticized Justin Baldoni for directing this film and also casting himself as the abuser. I think it can be tricky or distracting,
Yes.
But yeah, in this instance, his character is discreet enough as well that it.
Yeah, he's part of this.
It's like he's an accessory more than anything. You alluded to this, but so this film, Sight and Sound, one of their polls has voted this movie as the greatest Canadian film twice.
Yeah.
And the Toronto International Film Festival has placed it first in the top 10 Canadian films of all times on 3 different occasions.
Yeah.
And then I think you mentioned Roger Ebert has included this in his greatest movies list.
Yeah.
I can see why. It just, if you're not familiar and you're paying attention, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's pretty, because even the first half hour into it, I'm like, okay,
you think you know what it is.
You think you know what it is, and you're like, oh, a certain person from a certain time and place would have really liked this, but I think it kind of holds up.
But this movie, yes, if you're not fully paying attention and you sort of gloss over the first 45 minutes, you think you know what it is, but there are a lot of little details in this that I think are like, if it's not like interesting camera angles, edits, little bitty things in the background, even in the beginning when we see the mortuaries prepare, I think they've just had a funeral
for Euclid. Yeah.
And so now they're like, prepping the body to be taken away for burial. So they have to undress it. And I thought that scene was very interesting. Like,
Because they yanked that rosary out of those clasped hands.
well, that's what I wrote down, that watching, because this body that's fully stiff, but they have rosary beads around its hands, like trying to get it out. But I thought that kind of represented the vibe of the movie, like pulling back the veil from this sort of like ceremonious thing that we're all, you know, like we're taking a moment to honor this person's life and death, I guess, in in a way that doesn't actually represent what's going to happen, which is they're going to strip this body
Right.
and just throw this body, like naked body, into a box and dump it into the ground, which is kind of how I felt about the story of this movie. Like, behind the facade of like, oh, Christmas
Right.
is like this horrible experience for several people in the movie.
Well, it's I think it's very layered in its seeing behind the veil, because we get to see that this young teenage boy gets to see, behind the veil of propriety, but also like more existentially, all of us should have this feeling growing up that when you realize all the adults around you ain't shit, they don't know what they're doing. They are flawed and troubled and making terrible decisions.
So the dad who leaves in the beginning, Lionel
Villeneuve.
So he tells his wife, I'm gonna be gone for like a week, or what does he say?
He's going to the log cabin. Like, what are we gonna do there, sir?
Yeah, and so he just leaves.
But his wife, who's milking cows, like, she has to run out to stop him, and then it's such an odd scene because she's like grabbing the lapels of his shirt, and then they have sex in the hay.
Right, and then he leaves, and he's walking down the road and happens to bump into his kids.
This brood of children. He's like, yeah.
He's like, all right, bye. Like, see you later.
Be good to your mom. They found like a case of beans on the side of the road.
But I got the feeling that. Did you get the feeling that maybe he was thinking he was not going to come back?
Yeah, there was something really dark. There's something really dark, because we also see him drinking with his friends, and they're like kind of admonishing him, like, you can't just keep leaving, like, because you might not be able to come back. He seems viciously unhappy.
Yeah. Okay. So then we get to the general store, and we see that the clerk, Fernand, played by the director, he's having to do some paperwork. And so he goes up to the office where Cecile is working. And this is when it's obvious that maybe he's trying to push up on her, because she's sitting at a small desk and he tries to sit there with her. And she's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm trying to do this paperwork and it's too loud downstairs. And all I could think of is, what if you had to sit that close to your coworkers?
Oh my God,
at your office job? Like,
I mean, I'd be the type that would go sit on the toilet then. Like, no.
Ugh, I can't even imagine. It's been a long time since I've had to sit next to someone.
Well, there's a difference. Do you want to sit next to that person or not?
But I had fond memory, but we weren't that close. We were pretty far away. Like, if we both reached out our arms, I don't even think we could have touched.
No.
Like, arm's length. So that's more than enough space. But if I can smell people, no.
Yeah, no.
You are too close to me. Oh, so the young girl who works in the store, the one who Benoit likes, we see that her parents, dad specifically, are taking all of her money. So every week or whatever, when she gets paid, the dad comes and just takes her money and puts it in his wallet.
Like the Culkins.
But on this day, we see that the uncle only gives him...
He gives him $35.
So her pay is $40, but he only gives the dad $35. And he goes, wait, I thought her pay was $40. And he goes, it is, but she's keeping $5 of it. And the girl's sitting there looking scared. And the young Antoine gives her $5 and the dad $35. And the dad just walks out of the store. But you can see that this girl probably has a shitty home life, because then we hear someone say, well, you two should just adopt her. So I felt bad for her. And then on top of that,
getting groped by Benoit.
She gets groped by Benoit. Like, he's kind of running around with her, I think in the attic or something. And he knocks her down.
There's all these coffins up there because, of course, they own the mortuary.
And he grabs her, like, when he topples her down, he grabs her breast. And then she starts to cry. Like we see
tears in her eyes.
tears in her eyes. And you know what it reminded me of is Andrea Kelly, R. Kelly's wife.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
She did an interview with Carlos King, who I know I've mentioned before. Some people were like, they don't like him because he's messy, but which I don't disagree with. But I did think this was a really good interview. She has spent so Andrea Kelly is the ex-wife of R. Kelly, and she really shed a lot of light on her situation. But this woman, who she says she was abused by R. Kelly for years and years, and she divorced him before all the stuff that he was convicted of came to light.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that I wasn't fully aware of, that she wasn't even
She was
living.
She was long gone.
Yeah. But the way she talks about abuse is just like, you can tell this woman has spent years and years working through stuff.
Yeah.
And now she's a motivational speaker. But she said something I had never thought of. She talks about how women are taught from an early age to accept abuse from men.
Yeah, on the playground.
Because like on the playground, it's like, oh, if a boy hits you, it's because he likes you. If he teases you, it's because he likes you.
If he chases you down and pushes you
and grabs your breast, it's because he likes you. So then, of course, if you grew up thinking that, then as those situations evolve and
you normalize being abused.
You normalize it. And I had never thought of it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that it's weird. Like, well, why are you being mean to me if you like me?
Right.
And even adults say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I only make fun of the people I like. Like,
okay.
Please don't. Please. For the people who like to tease me, I don't like that shit.
There's a
and I'm just being nice when I smile back, because if I get upset, we're both gonna have a problem.
There's a new term. There's a new term in the nomenclature that I'm forgetting when you purposely put someone down as a way to attract them. Because my sister said she was doing it. Or realized she was doing it and need to stop that.
Now I want to look.
Yeah, what is that? I'm for it. Because anyway.
Huh.
Yeah,
wow.
There's a newer name for doing that as well.
Yeah, I would like to know what that is. But anyway, so that poor girl. Oh God. So then a woman comes in to the shop saying that she's getting married. So she wants to have the one veil in town that all the women share.
Mm-hmm.
And so the aunt starts singing a song in the store and everyone starts singing along. And I think part of the chorus is, on my wedding night, I got a nasty surprise.
Yeah. And that's also what it feels like for women.
That was not, a fun scene is when the notary's wife walks in, because at first it's like she's a stranger. But then when you hear the way the men are talking to her, see, I think this movie's so clever because if you weren't paying attention to the movie, you would think it's a very light Christmas movie.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen or read the subtitles, if you don't speak French, then you hear what they're saying, and they're all being so lascivious and inappropriate and like sexually violent towards this woman.
Yes. Like wolves.
But the way it all looks is like, oh, happy Christmas Eve in the general store.
Mm-hmm.
When those teenagers watch her undress, I thought that was so funny because they're being so obvious.
And when they're like, Alexandrine shouldn't walk, she shouldn't be left outside alone. And they're like, her husband's out of town.
There's an interesting symbol in the movie. There's a barrel of nails that we see in the first half of the film that's kind of always in the way. And I believe it's the uncle and the aunt. I think they both ask someone to move them and they don't. And finally, when a kid moves them, he picks them up, but then he moves his body like he's walking over them, like they've been there forever.
Yeah.
We see the young girl trip over them.
Which is kind of like, when they talk about when you train elephants not to run away as babies, they think that they're still tied to the stake.
But I thought that was an interesting symbol.
Yes.
Of what life is like there and how things become something that, could hurt you.
Well, that nails you to the spot that makes you stuck someplace.
Right. It's just always present, and it's like, and you're not making the effort to move it.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was an interesting.
Alexandrine is played by Monique Mercure, by the way, who you've seen as an older woman in David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch.
Then we get a scene where the boss of the local mines comes through. I guess it's his tradition every Christmas Eve to come in his fancy fur coat on his horse, and he just throws trinkets in the street.
Yeah, that's what some lady says. Like the he can keep them.
And then they're like,
We
they
don't get
look,
bonuses. We get junk.
yeah, we don't get bonuses. We get junk in these stockings. And then he just throws them into like the dirty snow.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of the people, their pride doesn't let them leave the house. But then of course kids,
Yeah,
kids
they don't
see,
know better.
they
They're like
don't. And so
presents.
I thought that was sweet. And then you see one little kid waving because the kid doesn't know. The kid thinks this, like the irony that this kid thinks this person is like great when all the adults know he ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
I found that to be a really moving scene. And then it ends in a fun way because Benoit and his buddy, who were being little peeping toms earlier, they're sitting on like the third floor of the building and they're like, let's throw snow at the horse. And so they're attacking the horse with snow. And so it causes like the horse to get out of control and the boss like has to run away.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the word that I was trying to think of was negging.
Oh.
Or to neg. An act of emotional manipulation whereby a person makes a deliberate backhanded compliment or otherwise flirtatious remark to another person to undermine their confidence and attempt to engender in them a need for the manipulator's approval. How devious.
It is. You need to watch out for that, y'all.
Yeah.
So I felt bad laughing at this scene, but it was so funny to me when Antoine and Benoit go into the room of the dead boy. I was laughing at this poor actor playing dead.
No.
Because he did a good job.
Yeah, he did.
But them trying to pick him up. And then Benoit is at like the bed, at the foot of the bed. And so we see this, like the image of this like 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy having to pick up this dead 15-year-old boy.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like his bare feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just imagine that would be like, I mean, even as an adult, if you told me like,
well, and then just
like some stranger,
what'd he die from? Did no doctor come out here?
yes,
What's
he
happening?
contagious but I thought that was a pretty powerful image of like this kid having to pick up this older kid by his bare feet, and
Mm-hmm.
feet are weird to people anyway, and then like touching a stranger's feet
Not to Tarantino.
Well, no. but
he's weird to me. And then I feel the person I feel worse for in this is the mother, is Madame Poulon.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Your husband is left. It's Christmas Eve. You have 4 kids in the house. The oldest one has dead to the bed.
Earlier that day, you chopped down your Christmas tree.
Yeah. And she said, like, I just thought he had like a little cold. He was just coughing and then he's dead. And then you watch this drunk, this derelict to just come upstairs, and then they dump his ass into a box that's too small, so his head he's kind of like contorted in the box. I mean, that's not where I expected this movie to go.
No,
it is upsetting.
But she's clearly a woman who's in shock. I think this actor has a fantastic face, because you just look into those eyes and she's just sitting at that table watching this drunk man eat, and I don't know, it's a profound visualization.
Okay, so the one part of the plot that I already kind of mentioned that I'm a little confused by is, when did the aunt and the clerk think Antoine and Benoit were going to return? Because they were real comfortable up there.
See, I don't think
they were drinking, they were half naked, fondling each other.
I don't think they were thinking, and they were drunk.
But like I said before, I have experience with that happening to me, so I don't know.
But they do talk about it where they think Fernand says like, well, we'll know when he's going to come home, because in his mind, he thinks he's going to hear the like sleigh bells. And she's like, no, they could have come through the front.
I think you're right. And I believe that, people could be doing something they shouldn't be doing, not knowing that, the other one's at home or whatever. That's not so unbelievable. I feel like that scene of the entire movie felt like there's something off about it.
Sure. Well, sure.
I don't know. For some reason, that scene just did not. It wasn't smooth like the rest of the film to me.
Well, she does say to him, how long have you been planning this? Like, and we see Fernand making the moves on her. I don't think this was really in her mind. And we don't really know what they've done, because she's still wearing that nightgown that we meet her in.
That's true. I think it all makes sense. It just felt, I don't know. I think It could have been fun. I'm only trying to come up with a reason why I'm not giving this a perfect score, because I did really love this movie.
Okay.
And I have to say that scene kind of threw me off a little bit. But, You already mentioned this, but when Benoit gets home after he sees his auntie doing something he thinks she shouldn't be doing, he falls asleep because he's exhausted. And he has this sort of like fever dream.
Kind of, which includes, I believe that's Alexandrine in a different kind of corset where the breasts are cut out.
So the sexy notary in this dancery, the sexy notary's wife is like in a coffin with her breast out, and then she pops up like Dracula, and then Benoit in the dream is like dancing with her,
smiling, like reaching up for her breasts.
But I think that's what it feels like to be a teenager. Like all these new experiences and these traumatic things that are combined with. I mean, you think about when you were 13 and all the horrible things that happened combined with all of the exciting things that happened. When you mix that all in a blender, you can see how you're such an effed up adult, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
it makes sense. My final note is in big capital letters and like 20 exclamation points. I was not ready for us to cut through that window and see that dead body in the kitchen with the family standing over it crying. Like,
yeah, and the father's back and just like, whoa,
this is not good. And then immediately the credits start rolling.
Well, it's on Benoit's face looking through the window.
Oh,
like, Merry Christmas.
That's a mic drop. That's a mic drop to me.
Well, I'm glad it ended up being a excellent film, because I assumed that it would be a slog to get through, but I was very impressed.
I don't know. How did we watch it?
Criterion Channel.
Oh, we have the Criterion Channel.
Yes.
So it's available there. It's also available to rent on Amazon. But I think if you want kind of a twisted Christmas movie, especially like if you're with family and they're like, what should we watch? And everyone thinks you're going to put on some sappy.
I'm tired of A Christmas Story. Let's watch something else.
And they're complaining about the standards. Just slip this baby in. Just slip this baby in and don't say anything. Just say, bear with me. It's in French, but there are subtitles.
It's an incredibly notable film. It's very intellectual indeed.
Well, no, just lead with it's consistently voted the best Canadian film ever made.
And so shouldn't that be a part of your mental lexicon?
Yeah. And just see how everyone reacts. What would you give Mon Oncle Antoine?
Mon Oncle Antoine 4 is my score.
I think this movie is brilliant. I'm giving it 4.5 out of 5. Yeah. So what do we have coming this week?
Christmas
Eve, Christmas, Kwanzaa, other related holidays, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then we have a review for the movie 2073.
And I think we're
debating on whether we should watch.
I think we're considering 2 other final reviews for the year, and then that's it.
What are they? A Better Man?
A Better Man, and
that Robbie Williams biopic.
And then The Fire Inside.
About a young boxer.
With Brian Tyree Henry, which was written by Barry Jenkins, I believe.
Oh, well, after Mufasa the Lion King.
Well, I probably wish he had directed that.
Are you reading anything?
I plan on being done with Claudius the God finally this week. It has been a busy December, and I find the sequel to I, Claudius very dry in comparison, but I'm almost done.
Anything else?
No.
Ta-ta.